Okay, so the company is called Select Sand. I'm the president and CEO, and I'll tell you a story how I got into the sand. I was in the gold business, and it was called L'Orange Gold. You know, nobody was paying any attention to gold, and we were Vancouver Junior, we're in the mercy of you, so you have to give us some money. So I would call somebody and say, hey, I've got this gold deposit in Saskatchewan, want to finance. They say, oh, well, call me tomorrow. And I'll call the same guy, hey, I'm working on the sand deposit. Are you interested? Oh, yeah, I can find $25,000. So I decided where to go. Still owned a gold deposit in Saskatchewan, 429,000 ounces. But how I went to the frac sand in Arkansas is the story I want to tell. So we got involved in a small producer in Lloydminster, Saskatchewan. There was a coarser sand, it was a river sand. It was used in the fracking, hydraulic fracturing business. And it was just one type of sand that wasn't working very well. So from there we learned there's other types of sands that you could use, and the better type sands were in the US. So we talked to some of the end users. They said, okay, one of the top energy E&P companies said, if you have a finer mesh sand, which is 40-1700 mesh, we could buy 500,000 tons a year from you for 5 years up to 7 years. So here I go, I put on my boots and my jacket, I go to Arkansas, and I hired a real estate agent who's an ex-Army Reserve, and we just have this marathon of properties. We're going after property after property. Anywhere I can see a sandstone, I gotta go and look, and it's getting dark at one point. So anyway, we go to this one place where we're just pushing roads and we're breaking trees, and I tell Scott, Scott, I think some people live in these caves. He says, no, there's nobody living in these caves. I say, no, I can smell some people here. So it's getting dark, and the cell phone is not working, and all of a sudden I see a lady, standing in the front of a cave, and she has a spoon in her hand. So I tell Scott, did you see that lady? He says, what lady? You can see his face. His face is all kind of, turned, he's lost color. So anyway, so that's how we got to Arkansas, the property we're developing right now, and that's our story. So a typical disclaimer, forward-looking statements. What is the value proposition of our company? We've got about 22 million mineable tons. We've got a Tetra Tech study done on the property, $160 million NPV, about 18 years life of mine. We could sell at $41 a ton sand, and it's going to cost you about $19 a ton. We're a $15 million market cap, and we've only drilled 40% of the Arkansas property I just told you about. The demand. So what happened was, in the fracking business, everybody was using coarser sand in the beginning, and then they all switched to finer mesh sand. Why? I guess that was the most abundantly available material. So I guess the demand and supply catch up. Now the prices are going up, and all the sand producers are talking about that the finer mesh sand demand is going higher. As you can see from this second quarter earning call, from all of the major sand producers, they're all talking about that the 40-70 and 100 mesh sand is in higher demand. This is kind of a closer look of the sand. What the sand looks like, it's a very spherical, very pure, 99% silica, and the closest thing to it would be diamonds, I guess I would say. And it's right on surface. It has no overburden. You can literally go and scoop it, wash it, and you'll have a finished product. And the first quarter earning calls by all these companies, they're talking about the 40-1700 mesh sand is kind of the proppant of choice. Everybody has been using that, and that's where we're excited about it. Location, location, location. We are in Arkansas. What is the pointer here? Yeah. We're in the Arkansas. The major sand producers are in Wisconsin. So you're looking at about 650-mile rail difference between our location and the Wisconsin location. So that's about $15 a ton saving. And plus you can operate year-round, as opposed to Wisconsin, where the ground freezes, from November on until March. This is what the sand looks like. And it's a Tier-1 sand. It's an API Tier-1 sand. It can withstand up to 10,000 psi pressure. It's a spherical, like I said. It's got a high purity. We got about 520 acres, of which we have drilled 40%. 60% remains to be drilled. And on the 40%, like I said, we have found 22 million mineable tons. Here is the bit of geology right in the middle. As you can see, the San Pedro Sandstone Formation kind of wraps around from Arkansas to Oklahoma all the way up to Wisconsin. Wherever you see black dots, these are the mines. And we're just right east of the Guyan mine, which has started production in 1920s. It's an open pit mine. It started as an open pit mine. Right now it's an underground mine, and it's been selling more into industrial and the oil and gas business. We're going to be the second largest after the Guyan mine in Arkansas. What's the benefit of Arkansas? It's one of the better jurisdictions. If I tell you this, we got our mining permit within less than a month. And I've been working in Canada for the last 20 years. We worked up in the Meadowbank gold deposit. That was about 7 years, $8 million. And a friend of mine is just working on a gravel quarry here on Vancouver Island. And I said, look, no, I can't do it. I'll do it in Arkansas. So 28 days mining permit, and we're basically starting our first mining. Believe it. Now look at this. We got our property in October of last year. Okay, we got our mining permit. We got our drilling done, and now we're going to be starting our test mining Monday. Within less than a year. This is the Tetra Tech report. Shows the two pits here. The pits to the west and to the east. Like I said, 18 years of mine life, 45% pre-tax IRR, $160 million NPV, and it's a high purity silica again, and 40% of the property. Supply and demand. It's got an industrial use. You can sell as much sand into industrial use as you could in oil and gas. This type of sand. It has to have a certain sphericity, certain roundness. It has to be of a certain mesh size, 40, 70, and 100 mesh, and you could use it in architectural glass, in the screens, in automobile glass, in paints and fillers and toothpaste. What we call this a food grade sand, because it's used in the toothpaste and the cosmetics, and sometimes your teeth fillings are done from silica. So it's this type of silica that you would use. So Corning glass, for example, would be using this type of silica. And currently in the United States, there's a shortage for glass. And I've had some people telling me today that they've seen some buildings in the United States, in San Francisco and in Texas, where the buildings are ready, but there is no glass. So that market is booming. And then in terms of the breakdown, so 80% is the whole grain silica and 20% is the ground silica. The ground silica is used in paints and fillers, and the whole grain silica, like I said, is used in oil and gas and in the glass industry. And the glass industry is container glass and all other types of flat and float glasses. And this is kind of the PacQuest is forecasting why the sand is so important. Because of the low oil prices, everybody try to stay away from the manufactured sand, which is the ceramic sand. They're going more towards the raw sand, and the sand intensity has increased because it produces more oil if you use more sand. That's simple math, and that's why the sand demand is going up. A summary of the preliminary PEA that was done in last June. We've got 22 million tons, of which 13% is 30-50, 32% 40-70, and about 58% of 100 mesh. So it's primarily a finer mesh deposit. Life of mine, $767 million of revenue, pre-tax NPV of 45%, and a 2.5-year payback. So we're right now starting this right here, toll manufacturing. We're using contract miners and contract plants to produce a finished product. So we've spoken to some of the E&P companies, and they're interested in using our product. We're going to be starting our test mining, like I said, Monday, and have a finished product using third-party plants, and a large E&P company will use our product in their well, and on the basis of it, we're expecting to have some purchase orders. That's the CapEx if we were to build our own plant, but right now we're using third-party plants, a toll manufacturing model. But if we were to build our own plants, that's about just north of $40 million is to build the wet and the dry plant and all the facilities and the equipment to go with it. just a bit of a picture of what the production will look like. So the green bars on the left-hand side, starting now, that's the toll manufacturing model we'll be using, and the rest of the blues and the yellows and the browns are going to be the finished product. And that's the project sensitivity. And there's the last slide I wanted to show that I picked it up from Economist. I thought this was a good slide to end. It shows you what the world we are in right now.
It's a crazy mixed up world.
Yeah. That tells you the oil story.
Got you. Rasool, thank you.
No problem, my pleasure.